Shalom. Our tradition has long cited the importance of the verse in this week's parasha, Parashat Shoftim, Tzedek Tzedek Tirdof, which we translate as justice, justice you shall pursue. And the question's been asked over and over again, why is the word tzedek, which means justice, repeated in the verse? A couple of answers have been offered. One is that it's used for emphasis. For example, we might translate it as justice you shall surely pursue. Others have said that it reminds us that the means to justice also have to be just, which means we're not only asking for justice for ourselves, but also justice for others. And Rabbi Arthur Waskow of the Shalom Center has taught that while most mitzvot can be accomplished while sitting or standing or walking, for the sake of peace, we have to really pursue justice, work hard for it. That's why it says in the Psalms, Bakei Shalom v'rodfehu, that we have to ask for peace and pursue it, just as we pursue justice. All of these teachings are underlie a wonderful story about New York City's Mayor Fiorello La Guardia. There's a street named after him in Tel Aviv, describing how La Guardia in the 1930s was sent to a troubled community to serve as a judge, and on a cold winter evening, a woman was brought before his bench accused of stealing bread from a bakery. When he asked her why she stole the bread, she replied, "My daughter's husband has abandoned her. She and her children are hungry. I had no choice but to steal the bread that I could not afford to buy." The owner of the baker was there, and he responded by saying to LaGuardia that he is frequently robbed and felt that this woman, having been caught, needed to be used as an example to others to hopefully deter others from following in her example and stealing from the bakery. LaGuardia thought for a moment and then replied, "Yes, she's guilty, and I fine you $10. Knowing that she could not possibly pay the fine, he put his hand in his pocket, pulled out $10 and handed it to her so she could pay the fine. But then LaGuardia turned to everybody in the courtroom and said, "I also fine each and every one of you 50 cents. And collected $47.50 from all those who were present, explaining that they were guilty of living in a city where a woman could not afford bread to feed her children and grandchildren. LaGuardia's action here constituted a real act of tzedakah, but not tzedakah as we usually think of it as charity or philanthropy. Charity is a benevolent act. Philanthropy comes from the words philo and anthro, love of people. If you love people, so you give to charity, you do something benevolent. Here, tzedakah comes from the root word tzedek, the word of our verse, tzedek tzedek tirdof. It's justice. Justice as explained by the international symbol of justice, the scales of justice. Why do we use scales to explain what justice is? Because the scales are shown as imbalance, and you have to take from one side and bring to the other in order to create balance. Here, tzedek and tzedakah are acts of justice because we take from those who have and share with those who don't have. And thereby we create a more balanced world. We are commanded in this Torah portion to create justice so that we can bring balance to an imbalanced world. But it won't just happen by putting our hand in our pockets. It'll happen if we pursue it actively. We make justice a priority. It is at the very heart of our Jewish tradition, and it is something that we should be spending time thinking about on this Shabbat of Parashat Shoftim. Shabbat Shalom.
צור מי שלא אכלנו, צור מי שלא אכלנו, צור מי שלא